So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever in the world you are joining us. Welcome to VizConnect. So VizConnect is all about connecting you with the art of data visualization and storytelling. So just to tell you about VizConnect, so VizConnect was started last year in May with the help of one of the Tableau ambassador, Divya Bharti. And the intention we had with respect to VizConnect was that we wanted to go ahead and connect everyone in the community, get them inspired by the amazing work our Tableau Zen Master, our community champions, our Tableau ambassadors are doing, and participate in the community events which they are going ahead and hosted. So far we are hosted close to 26 sessions. We had 32 speakers, 4,000 plus attendance, 400 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and 600 plus members in our LinkedIn group which we have. And it all has been possible with the help of these amazing people who have taken time from their busy schedule to come and just speak to the community. So all the sessions which are presented in VizConnect are uploaded to our YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe to it. There's some amazing content waiting for you. We have a LinkedIn group by the name of VizConnect. Go ahead and just join it. Talk to the people, try to know them, what exactly they're doing with Tableau or in the space of data visualization and storytelling, and connect with the like-minded people over there. So coming back to today's sessions, and I think once you registered, so being a data-driven company, we try to understand what impact we are creating by hosting such sessions, right? And few of the questions which I have asked, I try to analyze how many people are attending VizConnect for the first time. As you can see over here, 42% of the people, for them, it has been a first session, right? And you can see people are joining us from all part of the world, right? So that's the impact of VizConnect we are facing. And one thing which I'm tracking regularly is that the people who are registering to VizConnect, out of that, how many people have their Tableau public profile? And Eric, our a speaker of today, he will talk about the importance of it, why you should have a Tableau public profile. And the next one was which version of Tableau desktop you're using so that we can go ahead and plan our sessions around it. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our speaker for today. His name is Eric Balash. Eric is a data visualization developer and analyst at Booz Allen Hamilton in the Washington, D.C. metro area. He's also a trainer for Millennials and Data program and has earned his Tableau Desktop Qualified Associate certification. He's very active in the Tableau community. Eric has received one Ways of the Day from Tableau, and you can also find his interactive resume dashboard in Tableau's resume gallery. And the best part, fun fact about Eric is that Eric has been refereeing soccer since he was 14 years old and has worked in his way of being a Division One college soccer official. So without further ado, Eric, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Scar. Let me share my screen here. Get started. All right. So thank you for that awesome introduction. Like Cigar said, my name is Eric Balash. I'm a data visualization developer and analyst at Booz Allen Hamilton in the Washington, D.C. metro area. My contact information is there at the bottom, so feel free to shoot me an email, follow me on Twitter at ReadySetData, or you can check out my Tableau public profile as well. So um, before we go into everything today, I just want to introduce myself a little bit more. So like I said, data viz developer at Booz Allen Hamilton. I am a college soccer referee, so sports is something that I am very passionate about. So I've been refing soccer for quite some time. So I'm the one on the field always getting yelled at, but I do enjoy it. I love the sport, and I just love being around the athletes, coaches, and sometimes the parents and the fans. I do have my Tableau Desktop Qualified Associate certification. I do work with Chantilly Jagernoff as a Millennials and Data trainer, so I know she was on VizConnect before. And until recently, I think it was this week or last week, Tableau released their new group of Tableau featured authors, and I was really excited to be a part of that. Tableau has had a huge effect on my life. It's changed my whole career path for me, and it's introduced me to an incredible amount of people around the world. And so, I'm so excited to be a part of it and share my passion. So, other than that, I am an older brother. I am a big Pittsburgh sports fan. So, go Steelers, go Penguins. I help to lead an internal Tableau user group at our company. And other than that, I went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So a lot about me. On the right side of this screen are some of the recent dashboards I've put together. So the one on the bottom left, the time we have, that was the visit of the day that I received. Really, really impactful dashboard to see how us as humans spend our time. The one on the right is looking at just the rise of electric and hybrid vehicles. Right now, I think I have to update it on Tableau Public, but the bottom part it does utilize the new animations in Tableau. And the one on the top left is a recent makeover Monday. But like Sagar said, having a Tableau Public profile is extremely important. It really helps you, get better at Tableau. It helps, take your skills to that next level. And there are so many people on Tableau Public that I'm able to pull ideas and inspiration from and connect with. That really help me, take my vises and all of my dashboards to that next level and learn things about Tableau that I just didn't think were possible. So, if you're intimidated by what you see out there, just scroll all the way back at my Tableau public profile, and you'll see that my first vises were probably something I wouldn't typically share. They're not the best, but definitely get your hands on some data and just enjoy building out a visualization. That maybe is different from your typical day-to-day data that you're working with. So that's a little bit about me. I'm really excited to be here today. But what are we going to talk about? So you might be wondering, what is a landing page and how does it apply to Tableau? Well, if you're wondering that, you're in luck because that's all that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about how this idea came about. We're going to go over what a landing page is, when should we use one, some components of a landing page, and then we're going to go through some examples and inspiration, and also how we can make a landing page and some tools that I use. All right, so how did all of this start out? Well, at my job, we had a dashboard that had millions of rows of data. It was refreshed, I think, daily. And so we were just constantly pouring in a bunch of new data into this dashboard. Within that workbook, we also had about, I think it's in the range of 7 to 13 dashboards. So it was a pretty substantial workbook. The problem was our first dashboard was just a huge crosstab. From there, you could kind of filter down the dashboard, and then you would be able to go throughout the rest of the dashboard and kind of drill down into those different levels. But you know, and it worked. It was okay. But the problem was that we just had so much data, and we were just throwing our users right into it and saying, "All right, go ahead, there you go." Um, but the problem was we weren't giving them really any context. We weren't, telling them what they were about to be looking at, how to filter the data, what they might find. And honestly, the user experience wasn't great. And so I think, thinking about the user experience, when it comes to a tool with Tableau, it's really important to make sure that our users feel comfortable with it, right? Because we might have users that spend every single day in Tableau, so they're comfortable with it. But then we might be sharing those dashboards out with people that have never touched it. They're just our front end users. They're just, the data consumers. And so if they see a huge crosstab with a ton of filters, they might not want to use it. And they might just say, hey, export this to Excel, do something else with it, and send it to me. And that's not what we want. Um, so we need to really think about, our audience and how, we need to prepare our data and make sure that our data consumers feel comfortable with it. They feel welcome to the data, and we're not, overwhelming them with everything on the screen. So I can imagine that most of you on the webinar today, might have dashboards like this, a lot of crosstabs, maybe just a ton of information, because that's what people like. So that's kind of how this idea started. So from there, we said, okay, let's try and create something within Tableau that welcomes our users to the set of dashboards that we have. something that gives them information on the data that they're about to consume. So maybe some high level data definitions, or maybe how often the data is or refreshed, who the owner is, something that includes important links, and also something that kind of has a cool look and feel to it that maybe doesn't necessarily look like Tableau. So all of that led to our first landing page. So this is built off of Superstore. This is Caesar's Superstore. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because we're going to dissect this, throughout the presentation and a little bit more later on. But I just want you to keep this image in mind. So this is a Tableau landing page. This was made in Tableau. It wasn't made in any other program. There are elements from PowerPoint images in here and stuff like that, but other than that, this is all made in Tableau. So nothing too fancy. But just I want you to keep this image in your mind. So when I say landing page, this is what you picture, and we'll go throughout the rest of the presentation. So what is a landing page? The most simplest definition is the first page you land on after clicking a link. So you go to Google, you click that first link, maybe you have to put in your email address to get past the landing page. But that's typically, just what a landing page is. Then there's the marketing definition, which says a web page that is designed to take web traffic and convert visitors in a particular way for a particular reason. I really like this definition because what it's saying, it's trying to capture the user and take that user's attention and bring it in, to consume the rest of the product. And then there's the not a homepage definition. So this is I'm not going to go through and read this whole definition, but from my research, there seemed to be a little bit of debate among the marketing community of what's a homepage, what's a landing page, but I'm not going to go into all that. So I came up with my own definition. That was a little more specific to Tableau. So my definition is the first dashboard in a workbook that a user will see that captures their attention and provides them context on the data they are about to consume. So that's my definition of a landing page. And I want to point out before we go any further that it's always going to be the first dashboard in a workbook. So some of you might think that I created a custom portal like homepage for my dashboards, but that's not what I'm talking about here. When I'm talking about a landing page, it's always going to be the first dashboard within a workbook. Sure, if you are skilled enough to create kind of your own custom portal to house your dashboards rather than using, the custom or the typical Tableau server layout, that's awesome. That is something that we are working on doing as well. But what I'm talking about here is always going to be the first dashboard in a workbook. And we're going to go through some elements of why that's important and how it applies to the landing page. But within my definition here, using some of that marketing definition where we're trying to capture our user and provide them information on the data, and also making them feel a little bit welcome so we're not overwhelming them and scaring them away where they don't want to use Tableau. So that's my definition of a landing page. When should we use one? So I think there are many applications when we can use a landing page. So I like to use them when I have a group of related dashboards. So what do I mean by related? It could be around the same data. Maybe you have data all around sales or your HR department. Maybe it's looking at a certain segment or region, or maybe just a specific location. So pretty much anything that's related. I like to use them when I have a group of dashboards. So maybe not just like one dashboard. I don't think it is really necessary there, but what we can do is when we only have one dashboard, or maybe we have that summary CEO, level dashboard for our executives, what we can do is utilize Tableau's newer feature that came out. I think, well, I shouldn't say newer anymore. I think it came out back in 2019, or maybe even 2018. But it's the ShowHide containers. So I've seen a lot of people in the Tableau public space doing things with ShowHide containers to provide more context to their dashboards. And I do have an example of that and what I mean by that later when we get to examples. But yeah, I like to use Tableau landing pages when I have about maybe 5 dashboards or more all around the same type of data. So a lot of reasons why to use one and when. So some components of a landing page. So now we're going to break down that example that I showed you in the beginning. So first and foremost, the most important thing for me is the main headline and the supporting headline or description. So everything highlighted or underlined on the left, we'll talk about on the right. So right away, my main headline says, "Welcome to the customer order reports." Right away, I know that's the first thing that I see when I open it. That's I know what I'm looking at. I know what this dashboard is going to be about. And then I could read further through the description to maybe find out how often the data is refreshed, who the data owner is. Maybe there's some really important definitions about our data in there, or maybe we have a link out to a more broader uh, data dictionary or something like that. Sorry, I need a sip of coffee. It's still a little early here. Then after the headlines and description, I have our organization logo and a little bit further down, company branding. So I think it's extremely important to brand your dashboards. If you're building them for your own company or maybe for a client, make sure that they know that it's theirs or yours. Put your organization logo on there. Use your company colors. Use your approved fonts. So almost every organization has an approved marketing guide. Within that marketing guide, you should find the color palette for your organization, all the approved logos and how you're able to use them and how you're not able to format them or edit them. Um, some of the approved fonts that you can use. So approved fonts can be a little tricky when it comes to Tableau. I wanted to use approved fonts for my dashboard, but I ended up defaulting just to the Tableau fonts because they're compatible on both, Macs and other computers. So that's just one important caveat to keep in mind. But yeah, definitely brand your dashboards. You want to make sure that people know that when they look at it, that that's your dashboard, that's your company's dashboard. So definitely take advantage of those marketing brand guides if you can. I also have contact information and links to resources underlined on the screen. So in the top right corner of the landing page, you can see I have a link to the team webpage, a link to email us, and a link to documentation. So maybe that documentation expands on our description. It has all of those data definitions, maybe where the data source and the data owner can be found, any subscriptions, things like that. So a lot more information on the dashboard, but also those links. Maybe it's just to our team page, or maybe it's an HR dashboard out to the HR page, internal page to the company, and then just a link to email you or the help desk if there's any problems or questions. So those are just some things I have, that I like to keep on my landing pages. I think I have a little bit more on the next slide as well. Yep. So here in yellow, that's what's on the screen. Blue is not, but important ones that I want to talk about. So high level filters. What we have here is on my landing page, I have a quick search. So I mentioned earlier that our dashboard had millions of rows of data, millions of rows. So one, that can take a huge toll on just the processing of Tableau, although it's very powerful. Sometimes we know it can be a little bit slow depending on how our data is set up. But then also, as a user, I don't want to see all these other rows that aren't important to me. I want to know about my data. So what we allowed on this landing page is the option for a quick search. So before they would enter the rest of the dashboard, before they would see any of the other screens, they would see this quick search, and from there they could search. In the example here, they could search for an order ID or a customer name. So in this instance, they searched for John Dryer, and all of John's rows came up. From there, they could select an order ID, and using Tableau Actions, that would filter the rest of the dashboard and take them to the next part of the workbook, where they could then go through and see all of the information that they selected. So one, using the filter, the wildcard filter, you're able to not display the data until something is typed. So that saved us time on the processing power and loading of all the data. And then two, it allowed our users to find exactly what they needed right away and then dive into that data without having to search and whittle down through millions of rows, finding exactly what they need. So one, increasing that user experience, but then also just the processing of Tableau. Finally, on here, I have high-level key metrics and intuitive navigation buttons. So on this one, I don't have examples of that, but I will show that later. So the high-level key metrics was actually suggested to me by Joshua Smith, who was an Iron Viz contestant and co-winner this past Tableau conference. And he suggested that maybe an element on the landing page could be high-level key metrics, where as a user, if this is a daily report that I'm checking, maybe there's 4 dashboards in this workbook, and maybe I don't need to go through each of them to see if there's anything concerning or that I need to take a look at. If I could just look at my landing page and maybe there is an indicator there to say, hey, report 1 is good, report 2 is good, but that report 3, you might want to check that one out because that's, there was a huge increase or this percent change. So we can kind of set those thresholds through calculated fields and things like that. So when he suggested that, I thought it was an awesome idea. So I do have an example of something like that later. And then finally, supporting images. So I talked about kind of creating this cool look and feel. So for this one, I just created these waves. I did that in PowerPoint. Nothing fancy there, just made them in PowerPoint, saved them as an image, and brought them in. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do something like that a little bit later. But definitely, try to incorporate something that makes it, maybe not always look like Tableau or kind of has this welcome feeling to it. You know, so I think that's a really good element to have. There we go. So where do I get my ideas from? I get a lot of my ideas from Pinterest. So Pinterest is a great tool if you're struggling, if you have VizBlock, if you can't think of how to display something. I suggest going to Pinterest. I know there are tons of other people in the Tableau community that will go out to the internet. Maybe just it's Google, for inspiration, and they'll search something like landing page or um, you know user design or I think one of the recent trends I'm seeing on Tableau Public are creating these modern business-like dashboards. So maybe that's something you search for. But tons of inspiration out there. The one I have circled on there is kind of where I got some of my inspiration from, where there's the block, the header at the top, and from there there's menu items below. So definitely a ton of resources out there. But yeah, I like to think that I have a ton of great ideas, but not all the time. So I do have to go out to the expert, the internet, and see what other people are doing and get some ideas from there. So just a lot of really good inspiration um, coming from Pinterest and other websites like that. So now I want to walk through some of the examples that I created a little bit more. So here's again the Caesar Superstore. Nothing too fancy here. Now these are just I don't have the rest of the dashboard built out, so these are just all examples. So you know for example purposes, I don't have these links connected or anything like that. But as you can see here, here's my quick search. I can come in here, search for a name, and it populates maybe just some high level data that I'm looking at, and then I could click on this order ID, and the idea is that it would filter the rest of the dashboard here. So I'm not going to go super into our Caesar Superstore example here since we did that a lot already, but yeah, that's just the example kind of utilizing that quick search on a landing page. I do get a lot of questions of how did I add the shadow here, because right now Tableau doesn't have that formatting capability. All it is this top part is a blank floated with light gray, and then behind it is another darker gray rectangle that's floated just a little bit darker and placed a little bit. So nothing too fancy there. Just kind of a little hack that I started to do to kind of create that shadow object. Now this is the example using that ShowHide container. So this isn't a landing page per se, but this dashboard was created by Timothy Manning. He's part of the data school. And so shout out to him for letting me use this for my presentation. But here we can see that he just has a high level, almost that CEO suite level summary of our data here. But what he has is he has an info button. So if I click this, we'll see that using that show hide capability, he's given us more context into our dashboard. So, right, that's the whole concept of using that landing page is providing context and not just throwing our users into a bunch of data and improving that user experience. So I think this is great. I know that if I filter everything over here, it's going to filter the dashboard. I know that my high level key metrics will update as I make selections or as I filter. And if you didn't know this, now you do because of his annotation here, that you can lasso a group of customers to filter the dashboard. So great job by Timothy on this. I think using this ShowHide container, maybe when you don't have all of those other dashboards within a workbook and you're just working with one, using the ShowHide capability is a really good idea for making your providing more context to your dashboard. So great job by Timothy on this one. So next, I have our chronic diseases reports and dashboards landing page. This is created for the Betzendahl Health Center. So if you're not familiar with Lindsay Betzendahl, I think she was also on VizConnect. I think recently, but she's a member of the Tableau community who runs Project Health Viz, which is a monthly initiative around healthcare data. She is a new Tableau Zen Master. She's absolutely amazing. So my background is actually in healthcare, so I wanted to create this one for her. So this one, as we can see, we have our company branding at the top. We have our logo. We also have some links to some important things. So our documentation, a link to email our team, a link just to our hospital homepage, and then maybe a link to doctors. Um, so this is just, again, all examples, but I have an image here, that has our friendly looking doctor with a patient in it. So kind of has this soft look and feel to it, right? There's nothing too overwhelming about this dashboard. I have our main title and our description. And then down here at the bottom, I don't have any quick searches or anything like that, but simply just buttons, right? Tableau implemented buttons that you can use as an object for that navigation. So I mentioned earlier that one of the elements or components to have on a dashboard might be intuitive navigation buttons. So that's an example here. So yeah, I come in here and I'm in charge of the diabetes information and department at this health center. Maybe I don't care about all these other dashboards, and I just want to look at my diabetes report. So in theory, I could click this button, and it would take me just to my dashboard that I created. I saw a few questions there about sharing the dashboard. So yes, this is on my Tableau public profile already, and I'll be sure to share that link out with everybody. But yeah, so this is just an example of using the intuitive navigation buttons, and I'll even show how to create these. Nothing fancy; they were just made in PowerPoint, so pretty simple there.
And Eric, just one more question about the picture. So everyone is asking, how did you add that this particular picture in this particular order over here?
Oh yes, so there are a few free websites that you can use. I can't remember I can't remember what the name of it is, but I will look it up. Where there's a bunch of free images, where if you just sign up for an account, you can use them for free without having to cite them. So this is coming from that website, and then I was just in PowerPoint able to kind of trim this image the way that I wanted it to. So by just kind of overlaying an object on it and cropping to the shape. So there's a lot that you can use with PowerPoint to bring that in. So next, I have a group of social media dashboards. So again, nothing too fancy here. This was all made within Tableau. So I brought in our image of our cell phone here, just because it kind of relates to social media. I have our main headline and description at the bottom here. And then I have some information, telling my user just to make the selection below to go to that report. So similar to the healthcare landing page, these are just buttons that I can click to. So say we have a ton of information around our Facebook data, I can click that and go right to that dashboard and know that it's only going to be about Facebook. Again, some informations. If I have questions here, I can click there. If I need to email somebody, I have a button here to do that. Maybe this is our documentation icon. But then also, I have this menu item over here. Maybe these are links to other projects within my Tableau server. So within this one, this is our social media dashboard. So maybe this is part of our marketing department. But then maybe, I want to go check out my HR dashboards. I can click on that link. And if your Tableau server is set up that perfectly, that's great where you can kind of click and go right to that project. But just another idea that I had that I thought would be cool to have these links to other projects for easy navigation throughout our Tableau server environment, because sometimes that can become very overwhelming. In terms of the elements on the dashboard, uh, these are just floating boxes in the back. So I'll break it down a little bit when I go into examples of how to make them. But yeah, nothing fancy here. There's no custom coding or anything like that. Just some floating images. And again, got some inspiration from Pinterest when I looked up kind of social media dashboards or landing pages or something like that. The final example I have utilizes the high-level key metrics suggested by Joshua Smith. So this is our financial dashboards. I am a member of the Washington, D.C. Tableau user group. So this was just a little shout out to them. So again, our main title with description. Maybe, this button, there's not too much data in this, so maybe I can just click this to go to my very first report. I also have my important links at the top. But then here, I want to go into this section a little bit more. So here I have my buttons that show me my high level key metrics. So I can see just based off the indicator that report 2 is probably good, report 3 is good, and report 4 is good. But report 1 has this indicator. And if we look at this percent change, I can tell that there's something up there. So I think if you're able to utilize something like this on a landing page, right away it can streamline that end user's perspective and say, okay, I don't need to worry about these other reports, but clearly there's an issue with report 1. Let me go look at that one. So a really good suggestion by Joshua Smith. I think this is a really good idea. And then finally, at the bottom, maybe you're an organization that does a lot of self-service analytics, where you have your server set up where people can kind of go in and build their own dashboards based off of published data sources that you have. So there's just an option down here that I thought was neat to have, the user wanted to build their own custom dashboard, they could go right to the data source rather than having to go through all of these reports or even be bothered with this dashboard. So again, all of the goals of these landing page, or the goals of these landing page, just to increase that user experience, make them feel welcome, give them a bunch of context on what they're about to consume. And remember, it's always going to be the first dashboard within a workbook. So those are all the examples I have, but I want to go in just to some of the tools that I use. So Tableau Desktop for sure, obviously. So within Tableau Desktop, I use a lot of floating containers and text objects. So I'll show you some examples of what I mean by that. I use PowerPoint a lot. So PowerPoint can be good to create those custom shapes for images and buttons. If you're looking at custom fonts, so like I mentioned earlier, not all the fonts that you select are compatible on all devices. So I suggest if you want to use some type of custom font to make that in PowerPoint and bring that in as a custom image. You might notice sometimes if you upload a dashboard to Tableau Public that the fonts are distorted or they're reset or not what you originally set. So that's why they're not always supported. And then just, some background images like I did on the first dashboard where I have the waves. I created those in PowerPoint. Another tool that I'm starting to use is Figma. This past week was the first time I actually used it for a dashboard. So it's an online interface design application. It is free. There are desktop versions, but essentially, if you're not able to pay for um, uh, Illustrator or I can't think of the other one right now. But Figma is a tool that you can use where you can add padding to images, shadows. You can really get in there and edit it. So something that I've started to use to make my dashboards a little bit modern looking and add a lot of extra features to it. And finally, I mentioned already that I use Pinterest for inspiration. So a lot of good ideas there. So I'm going to exit out of presentation mode and just kind of show you some of the background stuff with the dashboard. So the social media one, nothing too fancy here. I'm just going to move this image out of the way for now, but all that I have here is just a floating, well, this one isn't floating, but we can see that if we look at my outer padding that I have this gray part all the way pushed in. So, uh, we can see that all I have are these floating containers to kind of create that almost website looking dashboard, or kind of create that soft, modern looking approach. So these are just some ideas that you can use to kind of create a landing page like this. So all it is just three containers, three blanks that are filled with a certain color. I have this one floating over the gray to kind of create this little inlet, and then I put the blue that fits perfectly in there, to kind of create this section for a menu item. So that's one little tactic that you can use. Looks like I lost my image back here, but then I just filled the space here with an image that was related to my dashboard. If we go back to the healthcare landing page, I was talking about these buttons, right? So Tableau now has an option to add in buttons for navigation. So what you can do is if we just bring in the typical button, this is what we're going to see. But if you didn't know, you can edit this button and you can customize it. So our button style can either be an image or a text. So you can create a text button simply here, or an image button. So what I use is just custom images that I've created. So if I go to PowerPoint here, we can see that I have my buttons, and all I did was kind of create three different shapes. So I have my rectangle here. I put the circle in the top right corner, and then I got my icon from Flat Icon. So Flat Icon is a great resource if you're looking for icons. And then to kind of create that button effect, I just formatted my shape with shadow. And then all you have to do is highlight the whole item, right click, and save as a picture. And then I was able to bring that into Tableau as a button, and then from there you're able to apply the navigation to it. If we go back to the social media one, again, I have those buttons at the bottom. So all it is, I created two shapes here. So I have my one background image, then I have my other rectangle with a thick white border, and then I got my icon from Flat Icon with my text item. I put that all on my button. I highlight the whole thing, right click, save as picture. So these are just, this is just one way that I utilize PowerPoint within my dashboards to kind of create some of those, modern looking things, or, to format things a little bit more. Because although Tableau is great, there are still some things that you're not able to do within Tableau. So utilizing those other tools like PowerPoint and Figma can really help increase kind of that modern looking feel, or just add more elements to your dashboard that you're not able to. So that's all the information I have on Tableau landing pages. So just before we kind of wrap up here, a landing page is always going to be the first dashboard in a workbook that a user will see. And remember that definition, it's meant to capture their attention and provide them context on the data that they're about to consume. There are many times that we can use a Tableau landing page. We want to use them when we have a group of related dashboards. If we don't, we can utilize that ShowHide container like Timothy Manning did in his Superstore CEO level dashboard. And then again, I'm pretty picky about this. I think it's really important to brand your dashboards. So use your company client logo, use those approved branding guides, the fonts, the colors, everything like that. Make your dashboards yours. That's really important. Um, and then finally, I don't have it mentioned on here, but just utilize those other tools to kind of add those extra elements to your dashboards and take them to the next level. So utilizing PowerPoint, getting experience in Illustrator or Figma. I still can't remember the other one that's not Illustrator. The other one, I can't think of it. It's driving me crazy. But yeah, there's just a ton of other tools out there that we can kind of use to make those buttons or make those background images and take our dashboards to the next level. So finally, I want to thank Cigar for having me on today. Really enjoy talking about landing pages. I think it's kind of a newer, interesting topic around Tableau that you can kind of use to take your dashboards to the next level. Feel free to reach out to me through email. I am on LinkedIn as well, and I'll be sure to join the group and share out the link to this presentation. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm pretty active on there and always sharing out new visualizations and ideas. So you can follow me at Ready Set Data. And finally, I am on Tableau Public. You can find this presentation and just a specific landing page workbook on my Tableau Public profile. But again, thank you for having me on today, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions.
I think thank you, Eric. That was pretty awesome how exactly you can go ahead and create a landing page in Tableau. So I think there were
Thank you.
some of the questions around whether these dashboards will be available. I think you have already answered it. So some
Yes,
of
yep. So
them,
yep,
yeah,
they're on my Tableau public profile. And as I have the idea to create other landing pages, I will always update them with uh, with the new ones as well.
perfect. So there is a question with respect to so all these dashboards when they are sorry, the question was I just missed out. Does floating container go awkward when you publish it on Tableau server?
For me, I haven't had really any issues with that yet. So, although I'm using floating containers and floating objects, I always use a fixed dashboard size. So that way, my dashboard size isn't changing. If you have your dashboard size set to automatic, things might reposition if you're using floating objects. But because my dashboards are always set to a specific fixed size, even though I'm using floating objects, things typically tend to stay in their place. But for me, I haven't had any issues with that yet. I know sometimes people might, but for everything that I've created with the landing pages, I haven't had any issues with that yet.
Perfect. So if someone has a question on the call, you can go ahead and just put it in the Q&A tab or in the comment section. I will go ahead and read out for you. And Eric, do you want to talk about your Tableau journey, right? When exactly you started, what inspired you to go ahead and participate in the community events? And I think congratulations for you to going for becoming a Tableau feature author. Do you want to share a little bit about it?
Yes, for sure. I actually just before I get into that, I did pull up the Q&A, and it looks like Regis mentioned Unsplash has royalty-free images. Yes, that is the website I was talking about. So
Perfect.
thank you for suggesting that one. I saw some other ones in there as well.
Yeah, so I will read it
Say, yep.
out. One of them
Yes.
were,
Yep.
oh,
So okay. So yeah, my Tableau journey. It's really interesting. So my background is in healthcare. I originally started in biology, studying that, and thought I was going to be a doctor. So clearly, I've taken a complete 180. Um, but I'm so happy for those changes because I realized I wouldn't make a very good doctor, and I don't think people would want that. So instead, I got into healthcare administration, so more of that business technical side of healthcare. And it was during one of my college internships where I was introduced to Tableau. So I was working with survey data around this company's products that they had, and I was building some dashboards in SQL Server reporting services. So it was a tool I wasn't familiar with. I learned it on the internship, and it was pretty clunky. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was easy to understand. I'm sure if other people have used it, they might have to say the same thing. But then the company hired a new data analyst, and he saw I was struggling, and he just happened to lean over my shoulder one day and said, "Hey, you should use Tableau for that." And my response was, "What's that?" And from that moment on, it changed my whole career. So he gave me like a 10-minute crash course in it, took me through just some of the basics of Tableau. And from there, I think, Tableau is extremely user friendly that I was able to kind of click around and figure out how things worked and build a dashboard, within the next hour or so. And so, I tell him to this day, we're still very close. I don't work at that company anymore, but I tell him, like, his name is Tim. I say, Tim, you changed everything about my career for me. And so it is a good thing. I'm excited to always be working with Tableau. So From there, I went on to work for a healthcare provider. So I was on the insurance side of the healthcare company. So looking at a lot of healthcare claims data and analyzing our patient population. So we were doing some really interesting stuff, diving down, kind of into the cost and utilization of our hospital. Really neat. But then from there, I just needed a newer opportunity, and so I came to the Washington D.C. area, and now I work with Booz Allen Hamilton, where I work with a lot of our internal data. So that could be data around our contracts, real estate, HR, anything like that. So some really neat stuff. Absolutely love being in the DC area. Just so many great Tableau people around here. So yeah, that's kind of been my Tableau journey. For me, Tableau Public started before the 2018 conference. I said to myself before I went that I wanted to get the most out of it, so I joined Twitter. I'm not a big Twitter person, but I realized most of the Tableau community, all of the Tableau Zen masters, all the Tableau ambassadors, they're all on Twitter. So great people to connect with. They're always sharing ideas and dashboards and inspiration, some amazing how-to blog posts, things like that, and they're so open to helping people. So if you have questions, feel free to add them, add me, send a message. But yeah, they're just amazing at how willing and open they are to helping people. So from there, I said I wanted to get the most out of this experience. Got on Twitter, got on Tableau Public, started building dashboards, and the rest is history. So just it went from there. My skills started getting better, started getting new ideas and inspiration, and it's just been an amazing journey. And I'm so incredibly thankful for all the help I've gotten along the way. And Tableau is just a tool. I say this all the time. It's kind of cheesy to talk about a piece of software like this, but it's true. There's just an amazing user community, and it's changed a lot of things for people in a very good way.
Thank you, Eric, for that. So there is a question for you on what is your strategy with respect to suppose when you are designing a landing page for a like a browser or for a mobile, right? Like what is your strategy, right? So how exactly you make sure that your landing page are device agnostic? I will ask that.
Yeah. So again, I actually haven't designed any mobile dashboards, so that's something new. Maybe I'll have to do a landing page around a mobile device. But yeah, kind of my design strategy is, first I get, I understand what needs to be done, the questions that need to be answered, and the landing page is kind of just a way to have that kind of soft entry into the rest of the data. So I like to make my dashboards very light, kind of have that modern look and feel. So again, I always go to Pinterest for my inspiration. That's where I get a lot of great ideas. I wish that I could come up with some things on my own, but that's not the case all the time. So, I'll see something there and it'll stick in my mind and say, okay, I could take this image and I could remake this in Tableau and kind of have, the similar sort of layout and that soft feel to it that, creates that user experience that is welcoming and not overwhelming. But then from there are some mock-up tools that I might use. Um, Balsamic, I think, yes, Balsamic, um, spelled with a Q at the end. That is a great mock-up tool for anything, whether you're building dashboards or web pages or anything like that, or even mobile applications or anything like that. Balsamic is a great mock-up tool for that. I think it's free up to a certain extent, but I tend to use that a lot when I'm designing dashboards, and it's very easy to share those out and say, hey, this is what I was thinking before you go into building out the full dashboard than having to make a bunch of changes. So that's one of the ways that I'll start with my design. But from there, it's just kind of doing things within Tableau, maybe PowerPoint or Figma to kind of create those extra elements.
Awesome. So I designed something on Tableau Public. Let me just open it. So I tried to design a Tableau landing page. So what I did, I went ahead and tried to create a single platform in which everyone can get all the type of information. Like if someone is going ahead and starting new with Tableau. Let me
Would
just,
you like me to stop sharing? Are you
yeah,
sharing?
yeah, let me just share the screen. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this was something which I designed just to make sure if someone is new
Oh,
to
awesome.
Tableau, they can just go ahead and just
Yes. Yeah, I think I favorited this on Tableau Public before. But yeah, just this is kind of the whole idea. Just something that is very simple for people to see. Kind of has those menu items or those quick filters or anything like that. But
right.
yeah, this is awesome. I think this is great. I think everybody should favorite this.
So I
Awesome.
collaborated with Adamiko, so just we went ahead and took some links for the community so that we can just go ahead and give it out to everyone. And by the way, you can go ahead and just download it as a workbook. So it's open for
Oh,
you.
awesome.
Go ahead, just modify it and play around with it.
Great. Yeah, that's really good.
But yeah, so thanks a lot, Eric. I think it was a pleasure to have you on VizConnect.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. This is awesome. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I absolutely love talking about landing pages, but there are plenty of other things to talk about as well. So thanks again for having me, and really excited to be a part of it.
Perfect. I hope everyone has a great weekend ahead. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you soon in the next VizConnect session. Take care. Bye bye. Thanks, Eric. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.